Uruguayan people gets ready for Jose Mujica's funeral rites with a massive participation expected. In Saudi Arabia, U.S. President Donald Trump announced his decision to order the lifting of unilateral sanctions imposed by his administration against Syria. And in Peru, the president of the Council of Ministers, Gustavo Alcacen, resigned one day before being subjected to a motion of censure in the Congress. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The Uruguayan government decreed national mourning for Mujica's death until Friday, May 16th. The government organized a series of tributes that will allow the Uruguayan people to bid farewell to the former president. The funeral procession will begin this Wednesday, May 14th at 10 a.m. local time from the headquarters of the Presidency of the Republic, and it will go through emblematic streets of Montevideo and places closely linked to the political and militant life of Mujica. Mujica's body will be laid to rest in the Hall of the Lost Steps of the Legislative Palace, when citizens will be able to enter to pay their respects. The arrival of international leaders and authorities who have expressed their intention to attend the burial is expected, likewise a massive and popular participation. And after the death of former Uruguayan President Jose Pepe Mujica, his people remembers him as one of the most universally admired Uruguayans. Mujica moved many of his compatriots deeply, inspiring millions to change the world.
Pepe Mujica, in his almost 90 years of life, is a global reference and at the Uruguayan level an example of activism, of resilience, above all seeking a better future for all Uruguayans, both women and men. Perhaps for Uruguay, because we have him so close, it's something that we haven't yet fully grasped the definition of what it means. But on a global level, with all of his influence in the world of the United Nations, with movies, etc., I believe he inspired millions of people to join in and contribute a little bit for a better world. He had a way of looking at life in a simpler and more respectful manner, and I believe that from this point of view, Mujica has been one of the most universal Uruguayans, at least in this latest stage of humanity.
And during his visit to the People's Republic of China, the President of Brazil, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, remembered with fondness the recently deceased former President of Uruguay, Jose Pepe Mujica.
I know many people, many presidents, many politicians, but none of them can match the greatness of Pepe Mujica's soul. He was an exceptional figure. The last time I saw him, he was sitting with me and he said, "Lula, I'm on my way out." And with the greatest serenity, the same calmness with which he told me that was how he governed Uruguay.
We now have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The People's Republic of China and the member states of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States issued the Beijing Declaration after holding the 4th Ministerial Conference of the China-CELAC Forum. The final declaration states, "We celebrate the 10th anniversary of the official functioning of the China-America Forum over the past 10 years. Both sides have upheld the principles of sovereign equality, mutual respect, openness, and pluralism." The document also explains that in the context of the changing international situation, the China-Latin American Forum has become one of the key platforms for deepening cooperation between China and the member states of the Latin American community. We emphasize the spirit of solidarity of the South and reaffirm our willingness to advance in a coordinated manner the process of modernization and sustainable development in accordance with the strength and capabilities of each country. The joint statement concludes with the following. We express our satisfaction with the positive results of this meeting. The select member states thank the People's Republic of China for its efforts in organizing the conference, adding that we have decided to maintain communication and holding the new session of the Forum of China and Latin America in 2028. And China lifted the ban it had imposed on its airlines regarding the purchase of aircraft from the U.S. manufacturer Boeing in response to President Donald Trump's tariffs. The restriction was lifted after China and the United States agreed on Monday to reduce tariffs on each other's products. Chinese government officials are reported to have begun communicating to the Asian countries' airlines this week that they can resume purchases from Boeing. The airlines were authorized to choose their own terms and conditions for purchases of U.S.-made aircraft. Washington will reportedly cut levies on Chinese products from 145% to 30%, while Beijing will reduce them from 125% to 10%. In other topics, in Saudi Arabia, U.S. President Donald Trump announced Tuesday his decision to order the lifting of unilateral sanctions imposed by his administration against Syria. Also, a meeting between Trump and the head of the Syrian de facto government, Ahmad al-Shara, was confirmed, where they will normalize bilateral relations after 14 years of conflict in the country. President Trump stressed the importance of giving Syria an alleged chance to prosper through the removal of U.S. economic sanctions, which appeared desirable to remove now that a government aligned to hegemonic and Western policies has positioned itself in power in Syria. The decision follows the overthrow by the armed opposition and the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham group of the government of President Bashar al-Assad in December 2024. The United States signed a historic $600 billion economic agreement with Saudi Arabia, marking the beginning of a multi-billion-dollar investment partnership. During the first day of his Middle East tour, U.S. President Donald Trump signed the document Strategic Economic Partnership along with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The agreements include sectors such as energy security, defense industry, technological leadership, access to global infrastructure and critical minerals, and a defense pact worth $142 billion, under which Washington will supply Riyadh with advanced weapons equipment. The Israeli army launched a series of new airstrikes against a European hospital in Gaza and its surroundings southeast of Han Yunis. The attacks hit several sections of the hospital, including the entrance to the emergency department, the courtyard between the maintenance and anthropology departments, as well as areas close to two shelters, Hisan al-Aga and Jenin. The strikes caused widespread destruction and left multiple casualties and wounded, with bodies still trapped under the rubble. According to Gaza civil defense spokesman Mahmoud Basal, the bodies of 28 people were recovered from around the European hospital in Gaza, and more than 70 people were wounded, many of them severely. Russia, China, and the United Kingdom rejected the U.S.-Israeli plan to distribute aid in the Gaza Strip and called on Israel to lift its 2-month blockade on the Palestinian enclave, where the population faces starvation. During a session of the Security Council of the United Nations, representatives of several nations joined humanitarian agencies of the UN to reject the plan. It is reported that the plan would involve the distribution of aid through private U.S. companies in areas under Israeli military control. Food security experts say Gaza will fall into starvation if Israel doesn't lift its blockade and end its genocidal campaign. Palestinian ambassador to the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, affirmed that Israel is carrying out a planned famine against the Palestinian people. And famine situation in the Gaza Strip due to Israeli blockade is getting worse by every hour that passes. World Food Programme's country director in Gaza referred to this dire situation.
You've got an entire population that is in a crisis mode in terms of food security. But worse than that, you've got nearly a quarter of the population that is at risk of famine. So if the context is not changing, we are still speaking about 1.5 meal, but soon we're going to speak about the fact that people don't even have access to a meal. Is that where we need to go to actually raise the alarm? It's now that we need to act. We have in our warehouses in Ashdod, in Israel, we have in Egypt, we have in Jordan, all the food that is required to support the population for the coming 3 months. Not just as the World Food Programme, all the different actors that works on food security. Sometimes we lose perspective. Most of these goods are not even 40 kilometers away from Gaza. There's no issue on logistical capacity. There's no issue related to routing and what needs to be done. There's no issue in terms of stocks. Sometimes we lose perspective. The food is so close to the people and we can't access them.
And Israel, the impact of a missile fire from Yemen set off alarms in the region. More than 1 million Israelis fled to shelters. In view of the offensive by the mini army, the Israel Emergency Service reported that there are no records of death or serious injuries, although several people received medical attention for anxiety, stress, and minor injuries suffered while seeking shelter. Meanwhile, Yemen's armed forces launched another successful attack with a hypersonic ballistic missile against Ben Gurion Airport. These actions come amidst an escalation of attacks by Yemen against Israeli targets in support of the Palestinian cause and rejection of the genocide in the Gaza Strip. We have a second short break coming up right now. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. A final break, we'll be right back. Welcome back. In Peru, the president of the Council of Ministers, Gustavo Algancén, resigned from his post 1 day before being subjected to a motion of censure in Congress. During a speech together with the president, Dina Boluarte, and his entire cabinet, the prime minister announced his resignation without giving further details about the reasons for his decision. According to Algancén, he had to govern the country in its most difficult hours, despite the fact that he arrived in office when the wave of proposals that his predecessor Alberto Tarola had to manage had already ended. Now President Boluarte must appoint a new prime minister, the fourth in her 2.5-year presidential term. And in Chile, the Mapuche nation has denounced the persecution and harassment by the state of the defenders of a ceremonial complex against the Norwegian hydroelectric company Statkraft. The Mapuche community denounced none of the Statkraft company's projects comply with free, prior, and informed consultation. Different professionals denounced serious irregularities in the environmental impact studies, which originally denied the presence of communities that have lived in this area for a long time. Resistance to the hydroelectric project on the Pilmaiquen River has been going on for more than 15 years. In this period, arrest and persecution of several members of the communities have followed one after the another. In the United States, heavy rains caused flooding in rural areas of western Maryland, resulting in the evacuation of an elementary school when floodwaters began to overtake the second floor. Local officials reported evacuation at several schools in Western Port due to flooding caused by heavy rainfall. Several homes and businesses in the small city were also affected. Authorities reported that 3 emergency shelters had been set up throughout the country. State police and the Department of Natural Resources sent officers and dive teams to help. The police informed residents that roads had been closed throughout the area due to the flooding. As an act of celebration for the 80th anniversary of the victory in World War II, the Victory Square of the Great Patriotic War against Nazi fascism was inaugurated this Thursday in Caracas, Venezuela. The Executive Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, said that with the spirit of anti-fascism, homage is paid to the great Russia and the path of peace and freedom continues to be illuminated. The square has 12 commemorative columns symbolizing the main battles fought in the context of the Great Patriotic War. Also, the monument symbolizes the struggle of men and women against fascism, where a Soviet man raises the flag as a symbol of victory over Nazi forces. Continuing in Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro announced that the Great Mission Viva Venezuela, Mi Patria Querida will be extended to Cuba to strengthen cultural exchange between both countries. On his program with Maduro Más, the president reported on his meeting in Russia with Cuba's leader Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermúdez, where they discussed deepening cultural relations in areas such as dance, cinema, and music. The Great Mission Viva Venezuela, Mi Patria Querida, created in February 2024, seeks to revitalize national identity and promote Venezuelan culture globally with a focus on participation, economic support, and cultural education. The president also emphasized that an agreement to deepen cultural relations at the highest level was reached during the dialogue. And Russian President Vladimir Putin held a video conference with members of the All Russia Public Organization Business Russia, during which he highlighted the successes of companies despite pressure from Western sanctions. During the meeting, the president indicated that the country will act in its own best interest with regard to the return of foreign companies. He also emphasized the importance of focusing on domestic companies' interests and creating joint ventures if they are unable to produce certain goods independently. Since 2022, hundreds of companies have left the Russian market due to the 21,700 sanctions, individual and sectoral, imposed on the country as a result of the military operation in Ukraine. Mexico prepares for the original meeting of the creative and utilitarian art to be held next month with the objective of recognizing, rewarding, and making visible the handicraft creations of indigenous peoples. According to the Ministry of Culture, the initiative, in collaboration with the National Fund for the Promotion of Handicrafts, brings together 250 artisans from 28 entities, with the emphasis on exhibiting a variety of pieces created with different techniques, materials, and skills. The event follows the line of work promoted by President Claudia Sheinbaum, who has one of her priority the support of indigenous peoples. The first edition of the meeting of the creative and utilitarian art will be held from June 12th to the 15th in various houses of the Los Pinos Cultural Complex in the capital. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.